Every single week, you open your refrigerator, look at yesterday's leftovers, and make a decision that feels completely harmless. Maybe it is the rice from 2 nights ago. Maybe it is the fried chicken from dinner. Maybe it is the spinach you cooked on Sunday and planned to finish today. You press a button, the microwave hums, the food comes out warm, and you eat it feeling practical and sensible. What if I told you that for 5 specific foods, that moment when heat touches them a second time triggers chemical and biological processes inside that food that your body was never designed to handle repeatedly? Not a scare story, not a viral headline, verified science. And by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly which 5 foods deserve your full attention, what is actually happening inside them when you reheat them, and how to protect yourself starting tonight. Stay with me. Hello and welcome back. I am Dr. Carter, and this channel exists for one reason only: to give adults over 60 the honest, verified, evidence-based health information they need and deserve. Today we are talking about something that happens in virtually every kitchen in America, every single day: reheating leftovers. And I want to be clear about something before we begin. Most foods reheated safely present no meaningful danger. The goal of this video is not to make you afraid of your refrigerator. The goal is to give you the specific knowledge about 5 foods where the science says extra caution is genuinely warranted. I also want to be transparent about what the science does and does not say. Some of the connections I am going to walk you through are well established. Others are areas of ongoing research where the evidence is real but not yet conclusive. I will tell you exactly where we stand with each one, because honest information is the only kind worth your time. Let us begin. Food number 1: reheated cooking oils and fried foods. Let me start with the one that affects the most people and has some of the clearest scientific documentation behind it. When you fry food in oil, something important happens to that oil under high heat. Cooking oils, particularly the polyunsaturated vegetable oils most commonly found in home kitchens, including sunflower oil, corn oil, and soybean oil, are chemically unstable at high temperatures. When they are heated to frying temperatures, they begin to oxidize. That oxidation produces a class of toxic compounds called aldehydes, including specific compounds called 4-hydroxynonenal and malondialdehyde. Now here is the critical point that most people are never told. When you take already fried food and reheat it, especially if you add fresh oil to a pan to re-crisp it, you are applying heat to oil that has already been partially oxidized. The second heating drives that oxidation process further and generates significantly higher concentrations of these aldehyde compounds than the original frying did. What do aldehydes do in the body? Research published in peer-reviewed journals has documented that these compounds generate free radicals, which are chemically unstable molecules that damage cell membranes, proteins, and DNA. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified cooking fumes from high-temperature frying as a probable human carcinogen, based on sufficient evidence from studies in humans. The concern is not a single exposure. The concern is repeated cumulative exposure over months and years of regularly reheating fried food in oil. I want to be honest with you about where the science currently stands. The evidence connecting dietary aldehyde exposure to specific cancers in humans is real, but still evolving. The strongest evidence comes from occupational studies of workers exposed to high-temperature cooking fumes over long periods. For home cooks, the exposure is lower. But the principle is sound, and the direction of the evidence is consistent. The practical guidance is straightforward. If you have leftover fried food and want to warm it up, use a dry oven at around 350 degrees Fahrenheit or an air fryer. Dry heat restores the texture without generating a new round of oil oxidation. And if you fry something fresh, use that oil once and discard it. The cost of a small amount of oil is genuinely insignificant compared to what the research suggests about repeated use. Food number 2: reheated leafy greens. This one surprises people the most, because leafy greens are among the most consistently recommended foods in all of nutritional medicine, and they deserve that reputation. The issue is not the greens themselves. The issue is a specific chemical transformation that occurs when they are cooked, stored, and then heated again. All leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, arugula, and others, contain naturally occurring compounds called nitrates. In their fresh form, dietary nitrates are actually beneficial. The body converts them into nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels and supports cardiovascular health. Here is where things get complicated. When you cook leafy greens and then allow them to cool and sit in the refrigerator, bacteria naturally present in the food begin converting those nitrates into nitrites. This happens gradually at refrigerator temperature. When you then apply heat a second time, those nitrites can react with amino acids present in the food to form compounds called nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as probable human carcinogens. They are genotoxic, meaning they can interact with DNA inside cells. The concern about nitrosamine formation in foods is taken seriously enough by regulatory agencies that the FDA has set limits on nitrite levels in processed meats, specifically because of the nitrosamine risk. Now, I want to be precise about the evidence here because this is an area where I see a lot of exaggeration online. The nitrosamine risk from reheated vegetables at home is considered much lower than the risk from heavily processed meats like certain cured meats, where nitrite concentrations are much higher. The concern is real, but the magnitude of risk from an occasional reheated spinach dish is modest for most healthy adults. However, for older adults who are eating cooked leafy greens regularly as part of a health-focused diet, and who are reheating them multiple times a week, the accumulated exposure deserves consideration. The fix is genuinely simple. Eat cooked greens cold whenever possible. A cold spinach salad with olive oil and lemon. Leftover kale mixed into a grain bowl at room temperature. All the nutritional benefit, none of the nitrosamine formation. If you want them warm, cook only the portion you are eating right now, rather than reheating a stored batch. Food number 3, leftover rice. This one is not about chemistry. It is about microbiology, and the science behind it is among the most well-documented in food safety research. Raw rice from any grocery store anywhere in the world is commonly contaminated with the spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. This is not a hygiene problem or a quality issue. It is simply a feature of how rice is grown and processed. The CDC documents approximately 63,000 cases of Bacillus cereus foodborne illness in the United States annually. Here is the specific danger. When you cook rice, the heat kills the active vegetative cells of Bacillus cereus, but it does not destroy the spores. Bacterial spores are hardened biological structures specifically designed to survive conditions that would kill active bacteria, including normal cooking temperatures. Those spores remain dormant in your perfectly cooked, perfectly normal-looking rice. When the rice cools after cooking, especially if it sits at room temperature for any extended period, those spores wake up, germinate, and begin multiplying. As they multiply, they produce toxins. And here is the most important detail in this entire section. One of those toxins, called cereulide, is heat-stable. When you microwave that rice the next day, you kill any vegetative bacteria that grew overnight. But the cereulide toxin they already produced is not destroyed by reheating. It survives your microwave fully intact and enters your body when you eat. This is verified, well-documented food safety science. The University of Florida Extension and the FDA both confirm that reheating foods containing heat-stable Bacillus cereus toxins to normal microwave temperatures is insufficient to inactivate those toxins. The solution requires that the toxins never form in the first place, which means preventing the bacteria from multiplying enough to produce significant amounts of toxin. The practical rules are specific and important. Cool cooked rice within 1 hour of cooking. Spread it in a shallow, wide container rather than a deep pile so it cools faster. Refrigerate it promptly. Consume it within 24 hours. When reheating, ensure the rice reaches steaming hot throughout, and never reheat rice more than once. Each cycle through the temperature danger zone, defined by the FDA as between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, increases the opportunity for toxin accumulation. For seniors specifically, whose immune systems are less robust than in younger years, foodborne illness from Bacillus cereus can be significantly more serious than it would be in a healthy 30-year-old. The precautions here are not overly cautious. They are simply sensible food safety practice. Food number 4, reheated chicken and poultry. Poultry carries specific risks when reheated that are distinct from other foods, and they center on how microwave ovens actually heat food combined with the bacteria most commonly associated with raw chicken. Let me explain something about microwaves that most people do not fully understand. A microwave oven does not heat food uniformly the way a conventional oven does. It works by exciting water molecules within the food to generate heat. Because different parts of any piece of chicken have different water content, different fat distribution, and different density, the heating is inherently uneven. Some areas reach temperatures sufficient to kill bacteria. Other areas, sometimes just centimeters away, remain at temperatures well within the range where bacteria survive and multiply. These unheated areas are called cold spots. The bacteria most associated with this risk in chicken are Salmonella and Campylobacter. Both are commonly present on raw poultry. Proper initial cooking eliminates them. But if chicken is inadequately reheated and cold spots remain, any bacteria that survived storage and recontamination have found a warm, moist, protein-rich environment that supports rapid multiplication. The USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service is explicit on this point. Leftover poultry must be reheated to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit throughout, with no exceptions. Testing the temperature of the outside or a single point is insufficient to confirm the entire piece has reached a safe temperature. Salmonella infection is a serious systemic illness involving high fever, severe gastrointestinal distress, and a full immune system response that can last days. For older adults, salmonella infection carries a significantly higher risk of serious complications and hospitalization compared to younger adults. The CDC estimates salmonella causes approximately 1.35 million illnesses in the United States annually, with the elderly among those at highest risk for severe outcomes. The safest approach to reheating chicken is to use a conventional oven, covered tightly with foil at around 325 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 to 20 minutes. The enclosed heat reaches every part of the chicken uniformly. If using a microwave, cut the chicken into small, uniform pieces. Use medium rather than maximum power. Stop halfway through to rearrange, and use a food thermometer to confirm 165 degrees throughout before eating. Alternatively, cold chicken shredded into a salad eliminates every reheating risk entirely. Food number 5. Reheated potatoes. The final food carries two separate but compounding concerns that operate through completely different mechanisms. Understanding both of them gives you genuinely useful information for one of the most commonly reheated foods in any kitchen. The first concern involves a compound called acrylamide. Acrylamide forms in starchy foods when they are heated to temperatures above approximately 250 degrees Fahrenheit through a chemical process called the Maillard reaction, which is the same reaction that creates the golden browning and appetizing crust on roasted or fried foods. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen based primarily on animal studies. The U.S. National Toxicology Program has classified it as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. I want to be precise about the current state of evidence on acrylamide. The National Cancer Institute is explicit that while animal studies have shown acrylamide causes cancer at high doses, large epidemiological studies in humans have not found consistent evidence that dietary acrylamide exposure at normal food consumption levels is associated with increased cancer risk. This is an important nuance. The concern is real enough that regulatory agencies continue to monitor it and recommend minimizing exposure where practical, but it is not settled science in humans at dietary exposure levels. What is known is this: when a potato has already been cooked at high heat once, its surface dries out during refrigerated storage, and the sugars and amino acids that are the chemical precursors to acrylamide formation concentrate at that dried surface. When high heat is applied a second time, the chemical conditions for acrylamide formation at that surface are more favorable than during the original cooking. The FDA and the California Environmental Protection Agency both recommend cooking starchy foods to the lightest acceptable color and avoiding char or heavy browning, specifically to minimize acrylamide formation. The second concern with reheated potatoes involves something called resistant starch, and this one is actually about protecting your blood sugar rather than cancer risk. When cooked potatoes are cooled completely in the refrigerator, a portion of their regular digestible starch converts into resistant starch through a process called retrogradation. Resistant starch behaves more like dietary fiber than regular starch in the body. It digests slowly, causes a gentler rise in blood sugar, and feeds beneficial gut bacteria. A cold-cooked potato is genuinely different metabolically from a hot one. When you reheat that cold potato at high heat, the resistant starch converts back into rapidly digestible regular starch. For seniors managing blood sugar or prediabetes, this matters. The blood sugar spike from a reheated hot potato is meaningfully larger than the blood sugar response from the same potato eaten cold. And for adults over 60, where blood sugar management is often already a concern, this distinction has practical value. The practical guidance is layered. Eat cooked potatoes cold when you can. Cold potato salad dressed simply with olive oil, fresh herbs, and a little vinegar is genuinely delicious, keeps all the resistant starch intact, and eliminates any additional acrylamide formation. If you want them warm, use the lowest heat that takes the chill off, rather than high heat that recrisps them. And never refry an already cooked potato in oil. Before you close this video, what matters most? I want to say something clearly before you leave. If you have been reheating all 5 of these foods regularly for years, please do not spiral into fear or guilt. That is not the purpose of this information, and it is not the right response to it. The human body has remarkable capacity for resilience. Chronic inflammation can be reduced. Cellular repair happens continuously. The habits that reduce your long-term risk are available to you starting at any age. What I am asking you to take away from this video is not anxiety. It is specific, practical knowledge that lets you make 1 or 2 different choices this week. Reheat your fried food in the oven instead of in oil. Let your spinach cool and eat it in a salad tomorrow. Refrigerate your cooked rice within an hour and consume it within a day. Use the oven for your leftover chicken and check the temperature. Eat your cold potato salad with pride. These are not dramatic changes. They do not require new equipment or expensive ingredients. They require only the information you now have and the intention to apply it consistently. Let me say one more thing specifically to the seniors watching this. Adults over 60 face a meaningfully higher risk from foodborne illness than younger adults. Your immune system is not less capable of protecting you, but it does respond more slowly and with less reserve than it did 20 or 30 years ago. The practical food safety guidelines for reheating rice and poultry are not overcautious recommendations from overzealous health agencies. They are calibrated to protect people who are most vulnerable to the consequences of getting it wrong. That includes you, and you are worth protecting carefully. If this video gave you something useful today, please share it with someone in your life who reheats food every day without knowing any of this. A family member, a neighbor, a friend. You might be giving them one of the most practically useful pieces of health information they will receive this year. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Every week we bring you verified, honest, senior-focused health information that is cross-referenced with current science and never padded with fear or exaggeration. Because the truth, presented clearly, is more valuable than any headline. Take good care of yourself. Every thoughtful choice you make in that kitchen is a decision in favor of your health, and those decisions add up in ways that genuinely matter over time. I will see you in the next video. All medical and food safety information in this video is sourced from the American Cancer Society, the National Cancer Institute, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service, the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, and peer-reviewed research published in food safety and oncology journals. This video is for educational purposes only. Please consult your physician or a registered dietitian for guidance specific to your individual health condition.